The coffee cup slipped from her trembling hands, shattering against the cafe floor, just like her life had shattered hours before. As tears streamed down her face, she never expected the man who would sit across from her, a quiet coworker she barely knew, would speak 7 words that would alter both their broken lives forever. If you've ever felt like you've reached your breaking point, this story might just be the light you need today. Hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us how unexpected connections can heal our deepest wounds. Emma Matthews stared at the broken ceramic scattered across the cafe floor, watching as the barista rushed over with a mop and gentle reassurances. She couldn't even form the words to apologize. The letter she'd received that morning, the final rejection from the adoption agency, lay crumpled in her purse, its formal language masking what felt like a death sentence to her dreams of motherhood. "I'm so sorry," she finally managed, her voice barely audible above the cafe's ambient music. "Don't worry about it," the barista said, already sweeping away the evidence of her unraveling. "Happens all the time." But it didn't happen all the time. Not to Emma. 38 years of carefully constructed control, of never letting anyone see her crack, and here she was, falling apart in public. She'd left work early, unable to maintain the facade any longer, seeking refuge in this quiet corner cafe where she thought no one would find her. She didn't notice him until he was standing at her table, a tall figure with familiar eyes that she'd passed 100 times in the office hallway. "Mind if I sit?" Daniel Parker asked, his voice low and hesitant. Emma wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him to leave her alone. But something in his expression, a recognition, perhaps, made her nod slightly. Daniel set down his coffee and took the seat across from her. For several minutes, neither spoke. He didn't ask why she was crying. Didn't offer empty platitudes. He just sat there, a quiet presence as she tried to gather the scattered pieces of herself. "I saw you leave the office," he finally said. "You looked. I don't know. Like I've looked too many times." Emma wiped at her eyes with a crumpled napkin. "I'm fine." "No, you're not," he said simply. "And that's okay." Something about his matter-of-fact tone broke through her defenses. Maybe it was because she knew, vaguely, about his story, the single dad from the accounting department whose wife had died 3 years ago, leaving him with a young daughter. Or maybe it was just that she was too exhausted to pretend anymore. "They rejected me," she whispered. Again. Final decision. Daniel didn't ask for clarification. He just nodded, his eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that made her breath catch. "Sometimes the universe breaks your heart," he said, "so you can rebuild it bigger." 7 words. So simple, yet they pierced through the fog of her despair. Not because they fixed anything, they didn't, but because they acknowledged the magnitude of her pain without trying to diminish it. Emma found herself telling him everything. How she'd always wanted to be a mother. How her fiancé had left her 5 years ago when she discovered she couldn't have biological children. How she'd spent the last 3 years trying to adopt as a single woman, facing rejection after rejection. "They say I don't have a support system," she said bitterly. "That a child needs more than one person to depend on." Daniel listened, really listened, in a way no one had in years. When she finally fell silent, emotionally spent, he spoke again. "Lily has her dance recital this weekend," he said. "She's been practicing for months. Would you like to come?" The invitation was so unexpected that Emma could only stare at him. "I'm not very good at this," Daniel continued, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. "Being both parents. She needs. I don't know. Someone who can help with the things I don't understand. Girl things. And I could use a friend who gets it. How hard it is to do this alone." Daniel hadn't planned to invite Emma to Lily's recital. He hadn't planned to sit down with her at all. But something about her, the quiet dignity even in her breakdown, reminded him of Sarah in those final months, trying so hard to be strong. He'd been watching Emma for months at work, if he was honest with himself. Not in a romantic way, but with a kind of recognition. She carried herself with the same determined solitude he'd adopted after Sarah died. Like someone who had learned to expect nothing from others. When he saw her rush out of the office that afternoon, something in her expression had alarmed him. He'd followed on instinct, telling himself he was just being a concerned colleague. Now, sitting across from her in the café, he realized he'd been drawn to her pain because it mirrored his own. Different circumstances, same wound, the loss of the future they'd imagined. "I don't need your pity," Emma said, her walls visibly rebuilding. "Good, because I'm not offering it," Daniel replied. "I'm being selfish, actually. Lily keeps asking why other girls have moms to help them get ready for things. I'm terrible at hair. And honestly, I could use an adult to talk to who isn't my mother-in-law telling me I'm doing everything wrong." A small smile flickered across Emma's face, the first he'd seen, and something shifted in the air between them. "I don't know anything about ballet," she admitted. "Neither do I," Daniel laughed. "But I've watched the same routine about 300 times in our living room. The coffee table has never recovered." Emma almost didn't go to the recital. She sat in her car outside the elementary school auditorium for 20 minutes, questioning her decision. What was she doing here? She barely knew Daniel. And meeting his daughter, it felt too intimate, too painful given the letter still sitting in her purse. But something pulled her from the car and through the doors. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was just that the alternative was another weekend alone in her apartment, surrounded by the nursery furniture she'd optimistically purchased 2 years ago. Daniel was waiting in the lobby, looking both out of place and endearingly determined in a button-up shirt that still bore traces of an iron's uneven attention. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "I came," she echoed, suddenly shy. He led her to seats he'd saved near the front, apologizing for the chaos around them as parents jostled for position with cameras and flowers. "Lily's group is third," he explained. "The 6-year-olds. They're doing some swan thing that involves a lot of arm flapping." Emma found herself smiling again, his nervousness somehow calming her own. "I'm sure she'll be wonderful." When Lily's group took the stage, Emma immediately spotted her, a tiny girl with Daniel's serious eyes and a tutu that sat slightly crooked on her narrow hips. Unlike some of the other children who waved excitedly to parents, Lily scanned the audience with focused intensity until she found her father. The smile that broke across her face then was transformative. Emma glanced at Daniel and saw tears in his eyes that he quickly blinked away. She understood then what he'd meant about rebuilding a broken heart bigger. His love for his daughter was palpable, a living thing that filled the space around them. The dance was exactly as Daniel had described, enthusiastic arm flapping with occasional synchronized movements that suggested someone had tried very hard to teach them choreography. When Lily executed a wobbly spin without falling, Daniel clutched Emma's arm in excitement. "She practiced that for weeks," he whispered, pride radiating from him. After the performance, they waited in the hallway outside the dressing room. Daniel shifting nervously from foot to foot. "She knows you're coming," he said. "I hope that's okay. I told her you work with me and that you're really nice." Before Emma could respond, the door burst open and children streamed out. Lily emerged, still in her costume but with the addition of mismatched socks, her ballet bun coming undone on one side. "Daddy! Did you see? I didn't fall down even once." Daniel scooped her up, spinning her around. "You were amazing, Lillipad. Best swan in the whole lake." When he set her down, Lily's attention immediately turned to Emma, studying her with unabashed curiosity. "Are you my dad's friend from work? The one who knows how to do hair?" Emma shot Daniel a questioning look, and he had the grace to look embarrassed. "I might have oversold your hair skills," he admitted. "Lily's been struggling with the buns for dance class." "I can do a pretty good bun," Emma said, kneeling to Lily's level. "I'm Emma. Your dad told me you were dancing today, and I wanted to see for myself. He was right, you were wonderful. Lily beamed, then leaned forward conspiratorially. Daddy tried to do my hair today but it's already falling out. See? She pointed to the listing side of her bun. Well, maybe I could help with that next time, Emma offered, surprised by how natural it felt. We're getting ice cream to celebrate, Daniel said. Would you like to join us? Emma hesitated, feeling suddenly overwhelmed. This was too much, too fast. Too close to the dream that had just been crushed. Lily, sensing her uncertainty, reached out and took Emma's hand. Please come. Daddy always lets me get 2 scoops after recitals. It's tradition. And just like that, Emma found herself unable to say no. The ice cream shop was crowded with other families from the recital, but they found a small table in the corner. Lily, true to her word, ordered 2 scoops, chocolate and strawberry, while Daniel opted for vanilla and Emma chose mint chocolate chip. As Lily regaled them with stories about her backstage adventures, Emma watched Daniel. He listened to his daughter with complete attention, asking questions and laughing at her 6-year-old logic. But there was something else there too, a weariness around his eyes, the slight slump of his shoulders when Lily wasn't looking directly at him. And then Maddie's mom brought in cupcakes with our names on them, Lily was saying, but they spelled my name with 2 L's, which is wrong. That's terrible, Daniel agreed solemnly. Identity theft. Lily giggled, ice cream smeared across her cheek. You're silly, Daddy. When Lily excused herself to the bathroom, insisting she could go alone because she was practically 7, Emma turned to Daniel. She's incredible, she said honestly. She is, he agreed, his expression softening. Maybe, Emma admitted. Or maybe because you didn't try to fix it with platitudes. You just acknowledged it was awful. It is awful, he said simply. And unfair. You'd be an incredible mother. The words hit Emma like a physical blow, bringing fresh tears to her eyes. You can't know that. I saw how you were with Lily. Some people just have it, that ability to really see a child, to meet them where they are. Sarah had it. He paused. I have to work at it. Before Emma could respond, Lily returned, proudly announcing she had washed her hands, with soap and everything. As they finished their ice cream, Emma found herself relaxing into their company. Lily asked her questions about her favorite colors and animals, whether she liked to dance, she didn't, and if she knew how to French braid, she did. When it was time to leave, Lily turned to her father with pleading eyes. Can Emma come over sometime and show me how to French braid? Madison has one every day and it looks so pretty. Daniel looked to Emma, clearly not wanting to put her on the spot. Maybe Emma is busy, Lily. She has her own life. Actually, Emma heard herself saying, I'd love to. If that's okay with your dad. The smile that lit up Lily's face was worth the moment of panic that followed Emma's offer. What was she doing? Setting herself up for more heartbreak by getting attached to this child? But as they said goodbye in the parking lot, with Lily giving her an impulsive hug around the waist, Emma realized something important. The pain of her rejected adoption application was still there, a heavy weight in her chest, but for the first time in days, it wasn't the only thing she felt. Over the next few weeks, a tentative friendship formed. Emma came over on a Sunday afternoon to teach Lily how to French braid, which turned into dinner, which turned into a movie night with popcorn and blanket forts in the living room. Daniel invited her to Lily's soccer games, which were even less coordinated than the ballet recital, and Emma found herself cheering just as loudly as the other parents when Lily accidentally scored a goal by tripping over the ball. They established a routine of sorts. Emma would come over once or twice a week, sometimes bringing takeout, sometimes cooking with Daniel while Lily did homework at the kitchen table. They talked about work, about books, about the challenges of Daniel's single parenthood and Emma's ongoing grief over her lost dreams of motherhood. Have you considered fostering? Daniel asked one evening as they washed dishes side by side, Lily already in bed after Emma had read her 3 stories. Emma handed him a plate to dry. I have. But the same issues come up, my work hours, the lack of a support system. And honestly, I'm scared of loving a child and then having them taken away. Daniel nodded, understanding without needing further explanation. It's terrifying to love someone that much. To know you could lose them. Is that why you haven't dated since Sarah? Emma asked, then immediately regretted the personal question. Sorry, that's none of my business. No, it's a fair question, Daniel said, carefully drying a glass. Part of it is practical, I barely have time to shower some days, let alone date. But yeah, the bigger part is fear. Not just of being hurt again, but of disrupting what Lily and I have built. Our little team of 2. You're not just a team of 2 anymore, Emma said softly. Lily told me last week that I'm her bonus grown-up. Daniel's hand stilled on the dish towel. She said that? Emma nodded, suddenly worried she'd overstepped. I hope that's okay. I've been trying to be careful about my role in her life. I know I'm just your friend, Anne. Emma, Daniel interrupted, turning to face her. You've become important to both of us. Lily lights up when you're coming over. And I. He paused, searching for words. I sleep better on the nights you've been here. Like some part of me can relax knowing I'm not carrying everything alone. The confession hung between them, more intimate than anything they'd shared before. I should go, Emma said, suddenly needing space to process the emotions swirling through her. It's getting late. Daniel walked her to the door, an awkward tension replacing their usual comfortable silence. Thank you, he said as she stepped onto the porch. For everything you do for Lily. For us. Emma nodded, not trusting herself to speak, and hurried to her car. The next morning, Emma called in sick to work. She couldn't face seeing Daniel, not until she'd sorted through the complicated feelings that had kept her awake most of the night. She'd grown attached to Lily, there was no denying that. The little girl had somehow slipped past all her defenses, with her serious questions and her unbridled enthusiasm for everything from butterflies to building blanket forts. But her feelings for Daniel were harder to categorize. Was it just friendship? The comfort of finding someone who understood loss? Or something more? And even if it was something more, was she ready to risk her heart again? To potentially become part of a family when her own attempts to create one had been so painfully thwarted? Emma spent the day cleaning her apartment aggressively, as if she could scrub away her confusion. When her doorbell rang that evening, she was elbow-deep in reorganizing her